with me.
Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and this is The Broken Meeple, a show where I devote my time to ranting and raving about board games, but usually there's more ranting going on. This is an overdue top 10, and I say overdue because, well, I haven't done a top 10 in quite a while. I mean, there's just not been a lot of topics to go for, and I'm always a little bit hesitant about repeating older topics too soon, because it feels like not much will have changed. However, we're getting to the point where I might have to start doing that. You know, there have been some requests. The Tiny Games one I did recently went down well, but not as well as it did originally. And, you know, there's just like, running out of ideas. So I decided to ask the Patreons for a little bit of assistance, you know, to get some ideas as to what to do. And thanks to Lena Kim, I can actually do this list. And this is not really a top 10 of sorts, because I couldn't really rank these. I mean, hell, I struggled to get 10 games here. I had to think for ages just to think of 10. That's how difficult this was. So rather than rank this one as a top 10, I think this one's just better off just a bit like the solo games list I did, where I just talk about 10 games. This is my 10 games that I want to play, just haven't got round to it yet. And, you know, there are reasons for this. It could be how long they take, how complex they are, how easy they are to get hold of, whether I'm, you know, umming and ahhing about it. And, you know, these are going to be, you know, a mixture of very small, tiny games and huge, mahoosive games. So there's definitely going to be quite a good little mix. Two honourable mentions before I get started. One is Skara Brae. Skara Brae, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a resource management game with a bucket load of different resources from Garfield Games. Even though I'm not as big a fan of their historical theme ones as I am their trilogy games, I still like to try them out, and Skara Brae is one that I'm like, okay, I like games where you get to juggle a lot of resources, I'm in. Well, it's on order. Although I probably shouldn't have ordered it from the publisher's website, because if I'd waited a week, I could have ordered it locally and got it a damn sight quicker. So I'm having to wait an eternity for it to come from wherever the hell Garfield Games are going to send it from. But that one's on order along with Anarchy, which would not be on this list, but I've ordered it anyway. So I'm going to be playing that one eventually, so I didn't think it kind of counted for this list. The other honourable mention I have to discharge now is Moon Colony Bloodbath, because I played it literally on Friday, 2 days ago as I record this. I basically got a chance to play it, a friend of mine had it, we played it, and it's actually a pretty good fun-like game. I mean, I'll give some thoughts maybe next week on the next podcast, I'll talk about it then. Suffice to say, you need to go in it with the right mindset, you need to know exactly what kind of game it is, you need to have kind of like a thematic understanding of like the retro sci-fi theming with it, so you can come up with your own references and just have silly fun with it. But yeah, it's kind of like Galaxy Trucker if you took out the time phase, you know, it's build up this engine and then watch it get destroyed. But everyone's kind of on a level playing field, you're putting cards into a central deck that will affect everybody, but hopefully you less so. It can generate quite a few laughs. I do think Shut Up and Sit Down overhyped it like crazy, but go figure. But, you know, it's still an interesting game, but I can't put it on this list now because I've played it, so it's no longer one that I'm interested to try. But these 10 games, I've basically got the list in front of me here. I've also going to bring up Board Game Geek on my phone just so that I've got, you know, some statistics for me. So, you know, it's not like I can really show off anything else on the screen here apart from pictures on the left. So that's all I can really do. So in no particular order, let's get on with this list of 10.
Wingers, dingus, listen up.
First up on the list is a game that I doubt anybody would have ever thought that I would put on a list like this. You know, Luke, why on earth do you want to play this game? Because these kind of games are intriguing to me. You know, like this is a big, long, epic length game. And it's, you know, politically themed, which is not normally something I would go for either. But then, you know, Hegemony was a bit like that for me, where I was like, okay, I don't want to play this big, massive game about social class politics, but I'll give it a shot. It sounds intriguing, could work, and it's now one of my favourite games ever. So, you know, these things do happen. This is Mr. President. I think the full title, to give it his weird name, is Mr. President, the American Presidency 2001 to 2020.
Lacks punch, don't you think?
Jesus Christ, GMT do not know how to do games with short taglines, but this is basically a solo thematic game. You're basically, like, you are running the presidency, and you've got to, as it says here, you know, you've been elected, You've now got to advance your agenda while navigating crises, political enemies, public opinion, your relations with Congress and the press and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm not the biggest expert on American presidential politics, or how that system works, but the fact that when you look at this game, it just looks like this massive sprawl of stuff that you have got to deal with as a solo player. I was like, okay, I mean, big epic games as a solo player, I can get more behind. So this one does intrigue me. Not the easiest to get hold of, not the cheapest game either, but also it's one that I'm going to have to pretty much take a course on in order to learn this game, because it's going to be somewhat insane. But just because Hegemony did well for me, this makes me kind of think, could this one be interesting for me? I mean, stranger things have happened, but it's a solo beast of a game, and part of me is kind of like, it'd be fun to just try it, just try it out and see what it's like. If I didn't like it, if I thought it was too much, then I just pack it away and sell it off, I mean, there are games like Voidfall that had a similar thing where they were just impractical to ever get to the table, therefore, regardless of whether the game was any good or not, spoiler alert, Voidfall's okay, then it's not so bad. But yeah, I just figured, you know what, this one looked interesting when I've seen it on solo Facebook groups, and I wouldn't say no to giving it a shot. It just might take me a while.
Nixon's back!
Next on the list, well, we're sticking with giant epic games, except this one wouldn't be a solo game, this one would be a big group game, and I almost got to try this recently. Almost. There were literally 2 people at it set up and it was ready to go at Manicon. And I looked at it and I thought, this is tempting, but then I had friends of mine that were willing to play Mosaic, and I wanted to play that a second time to see if it was any good, and I knew them. But this one does scare me. I want to play it, but I didn't know if I wanted to use up a whole day of a convention to play it, but then when else am I going to play it? This is Europa Universalis, I don't know, it's a weird title, but basically this is based off a computer game. It's who's the people who do this? They do the same people, Paradox Interactive, I believe. Yeah, the ones who do Stellaris and some of those other big epic sort of 4X strategy games. Well, this one, again, when you see it, it's a giant box, it's expensive, it's got like this big map and all this stuff going on it, and you're doing the classic 4X thing of, here you go, so historical settings, strategic use of cards and careful management of resources, expand your realm, develop the internal machinery of your state, build diplomatic relations, go conquer, recruit people. It's it's basically meant to be running a big historical empire, and I do like these civilization-based games. Not all of them work for me. Some of them don't turn out as well, and certainly stay the hell away from Mega Civilization, if you can even call that a Civ game.
Oh, yes! I hate this! It is revolting!
But I'm always intrigued to try a Civ game, and this one just looking so big and grandiose makes me think, you know what, at one point I would just like to try it. But, man, I thought this is going to be a beast to learn with just 2 people teaching me, and I thought, I know, and I've heard this game has quite a lot of downtime. I'm only at Manicon, this is the first time I'm at Manicon, and I want to play more than just a few games here. Do I want to sacrifice an entire day to play it? I don't know, but I don't know anybody else who has the game, is willing to teach it, nor has a spare day for us to play it. But part of me does want to try it at some point. I like some of the, me and some friends, we've enjoyed playing Stellaris online on the PC now and again. We play like some multiplayer sessions now and again. I've played a couple of solo campaigns on it. It's a fun game, it's just quite a bit to deal with, and certainly it's been patched so much since the last time I played it, I doubt I'd recognise it. But we like civilization strategy games, so if one does come up in a board game form, we're tempted to try it. In fact, I mentioned Stellaris. I'm looking forward to eventually Academy Games finishing off the Kickstarted one, because that's on my list. It's going to be delivered to me at some point, and we look forward to trying it out. We do like these kind of games. But yeah, big, Civ, huge, a million rules, a ton of time required to play it. Yeah, if you've seen reviews for this, you'll hear that whether people like it or not, they go, oh my god, this is a beast. And that's what kind of scares me off it. But part of me says, maybe? Get out! Get out of there! Alright, let's get off these giant, big, grandiose games. I mean, if people really wanted to think that I don't like playing heavy, long Euros. You know, I've just mentioned 2 pretty long ones there for you. All right, well, let's take it down a notch. Let's go to something small, light, 2-player only, and this is a theme with this and one other choice on this list. 2-player only games. They're a struggle for me to get to the table because I don't often play games with just 2 players. Ark Nova is kind of like one of the rare occasions where it's like, you know what, there's only 2 of us that play Ark Nova in physical form because we know what we're doing and we can play it really quick, and I love Ark Nova. But 2-player games that are just like little 2-player games, like something like Great Plains, for example, I keep them because in case I ever meet someone and bring them round and they want a gateway game, I can use these or something. But yeah, when will that ever happen? But, you know, 2 players, they're tricky for me to want to buy, especially when I can't play them solo. This one is Sky Team. Sky Team, oh yes, do I really need to introduce this one? A lot of people have heard of this one, this idea of work together silently to land a plane under increasingly challenging circumstances. As a concept, as a theme, this sounds great. You know, I don't know how strong the theme is within the game, but as a cool little puzzle with 2 players, this does sound something quite cool. You know, and, you know, I want to try this game. But the problem is, you know, it's 2-player only. There's not even a solo mode for it as far as I'm aware. I've asked about it, but there isn't one that I've seen. It won the 2024 Spiel des Jahres, so it's obviously got something going behind it, but you know, dice rolling, assigning your dice to correct spaces in your cockpit to balance the axis of your plane, control its speed, deploy the flaps. If it tilts too much, overshoots the airport, whatever, you lose the game, possibly your life. You know, the theming of it sounds great, and I want to play this game, but I don't really know anybody who has it. And it's not something I'm just going to pull off the shelf at a game cafe if I see one there and just try to learn it and hope that there's a second player there who also wants to learn it. I kind of want to play it and just have someone teach me it, you know. And one thing I will say is that, you know, if some of these games exist on Board Game Arena or the like, it's not the same. You know, if you want to play a game and learn it for the first time, I much prefer to get it in its physical form, whether I learn it from a rulebook or from a teacher, because when you try to learn something for the first time on BGA, because the interface is all different, it's not like how the actual game is, plus it's fast forwarding through all the turns, it's not quite the same as, you know, being able to learn it up scratch. I find it difficult to do that. So I tend to play BGA implementations after the fact, unless they're really tiny games. But yeah, this one is very popular as far as I've heard. It's won awards. It's been voted in a lot of 2-player like lists in the past. I would like to try this, please.
I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you.
Now, I must admit, I have kind of dried up on some of these big, massive, you know, miniature games where it's like, here's a box of miniatures and stuff going on and roll dice and go kill the big bad or whatever. I have kind of waned out on a lot of these. But I would still like to try this one, because this one still gets a decent amount of buzz, but by all means they're not cheap when you try to get hold of it. And there's like lots of other boxes you can get for it besides, and it's from a publisher that I don't tend to go for their games. I mean, once or twice in the past I've had them on my shelf, but even they've gone. I actually don't think I own any Cool Mini or Not game at all on my shelves now. I think they're all gone out of my collection. Yeah, Rising Sun went a while back. So, you know, to want to play a Cool Mini or Not game is unlike me. But Cthulhu Death May Die is still on my list to want to try, because I like Arkham Horror settings anyway, and most of the time Arkham Horrors tend to be an investigative thing, like go check stuff out, and if you have to kill something, fine, but you're not really in a position to do that. Well, as far as I can tell, Cthulhu Death May Die kind of puts it the other way round, where it's like, yeah, we want to do stuff to do with this, you know, stop this ritual and things like that, but at some point we want Cthulhu to actually come out so I can blow his head off with a shotgun.
Big monster!
And so it feels like it's a bit more action orientated than something like, you know, Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition or the Arkham Horror LCG or even just the normal Arkham Horror games. You know, they're more about the encounters, whereas this one feels more about the big gribbly things and you go off and kill them. So, sounds a little bit different. I don't know if I would like this one that much. I mean, this one definitely, if I was ranking these, would probably be a bit lower down on this list of 10. But, you know what, I'm down for trying it, you know, just a quick game of, right, give me Cthulhu, give me some weapons, give me some cool, weird trinkets and stuff, and let me go out and blow his brains out. You know, it'd be something a little bit different and something to just turn my brain off and go with it. And some of these skirmishy games I do like. I mean, Deep Rock Galactic's one of my favourite games ever, that's on my shelf. I do look forward to bringing that out again with all its painted miniatures, but, you know, this one for even though it's Cool Mini or Not, and I have to admit they just really haven't done it for me in recent years, I am still interested to see whether this one could be a fun, like kind of like the one. Well, I don't know, not the one, because I've got Deep Rock Galactic, but, maybe just the one Cool Mini or Not game that manages to win me over. But, yeah, it's low down on my list in terms of what I want to try. But if I get a chance to try it, just a group of 4 people, fresh teach, base game, don't need all the extras thrown into it or whatever, then I'd be willing to give it a shot. But I'm not going to pay the amount of money it demands for what it is originally, initially. It's a little bit too expensive for my liking.
Is bread free?
Yeah.
We'll split an order.
Now, boy, would you be surprised to find this kind of game on the list? Yes, another heavy Euro from is franchise the right word? From a series that I previously hated, and now fine, except for one spin-off from the series which I find amazing, set in New Zealand with sheep. Yeah, I haven't played all of the Great Western Trail games yet. I have still not tried Argentina, which is one that I would still like to play.
Sometimes I don't believe I know you.
I find the original fine. It's okay-ish now. I think the second edition did fix a few of the problems that I had with it, and the expansion kind of pigeonholes you to deal with the expansion stuff, so I can get by without playing the original Great Western Trail, even in its second edition form. But you've heard me sing the praises of New Zealand, which just seemed to click, just got it right. So Argentina, I kind of want to play for completeness reasons, just to say, okay, let me try all 3 of them to see what they're like. Well, every time I talk to Great Western Trail fans about Argentina, 95% of the time, the feedback I get is, don't bother. or to the lines of, it's the worst of the 3. So whether they prefer New Zealand or prefer the original, it kind of tops and tails between that, most of them tend to say that they don't find Argentina their favourite. Or some of them don't even like Argentina. They'll like the other 2, but not this one. So I'm curious just to find out what it is. The idea that you've got a new type of worker, farmers. Well, I like New Zealand for having 4 workers rather than just 3, so it would be nice. I assume it's a 4th, not a replacement worker. But then the idea that you've got to unlock shortcuts to deliver your herd, and the timing of reaching the central train station has never been so crucial. Money's easier to get, but now you have to micromanage shortcuts and paths and stuff, and it's like, I've heard it can be a bit more punishing than the other Great Western Trails. If things go your way, they'll go your way, but you could get screwed over at a moment's notice without realizing it. It's a little worrying, but given that I have a little bit more appreciation for the series, thanks to New Zealand, I would at least like to complete the set. Complete the trilogy and go, right, I have played all 3 Great Western Trail games, I like this one the most, then second, then third, and leave it at that. And, I doubt it's going to beat New Zealand. I can't see it even remotely catching up to New Zealand. But I would be interested to know whether I would prefer Argentina to the original. I'd like to at least compare and contrast those 2. But very few people have Argentina as a game copy. I could just buy it myself. Usually it's cheap on sale, which is a bit of a concern, because for a Great Western Trail game to be on sale a lot of the times, that kind of doesn't exactly talk a lot about its popularity. But I would just like to try it. But most of the time Great Western Trail gets played, it's usually been played in its New Zealand or its original form. Rarely does anybody go to a club night or a convention and bring the Argentina version. This one feels like one I'm going to have to pre-arrange ahead of time, or just suck it up, buy the game myself and just try it out. It may have to come to that. But, as I say, at some point, I want to complete the trilogy. Even if this one does turn out to be the worst of the 3. Even if I turn out to hate it, I still want to at least give it a go. Okay, we're going back to light 2-player light drafting game, and 2-player drafting games are usually quite tricky to do, although we do have the likes of Seven Wonders Duel, for example, which is fantastic, so it can be done. Zia Garcia sung the praises of this one, both in its original form and this form, and I do want to try it, but again, 2-player only.
I'll just be lonely.
I can't easily get those games to the table or justify buying them to try them out. It just has to be one that if it turns up and somebody has it in their bag and it's like, what game do you fancy playing if it's just 2 of us? Well, what have you got in there? And they'll go, this, oh, I've also got Caper Europe. then I'd like to try it then. This will be a bit like Sky Team in that respect. Caper, you know, was talked about a lot by Z Garcia, this idea that you were like doing a heist and you were getting crew and like kitting them out with stuff. Well, Caper Europe is the one that he prefers. He says like it's a better implementation of the game, so that's the one I want to try as opposed to the original Caper. But the concept of it sounds cool. Your role as a criminal mastermind, recruit a crew of thieves, send them to locations, provide them with gear, you know, and the idea being that you take turns sending thieves. You enhance by adding gear to the thieves. Controlling the locations isn't everything, and your goal is to score the most points by winning locations, collect goods, and equipping thieves, that kind of thing. But, you know, so the theme sounds cool, but two-player drafting games. It's not something you tend to see often, but when they work, boy do they work. At Seven Wonders Duel, going by that front. So this is just one that I would like to try. You know, it's not one that I'm like, oh my god, please, will somebody hurry up and teach this one. This might even be the lowest on the list if I was ranking it, just because it's like, well, if I don't play it, I don't play it. It's not the most recent game in the world. I think it was at 2022? Yeah, 2022, the Europe version came out. I think the original's been out for a fair while. But yeah, part of me still just wants to try this game. But if I don't get to try it, I don't get to try it. But, you know, I was trying to think of 10 games, and it's like, what games have I wanted to play in the past? And I just haven't thought of them much lately. Caper Europe was one of them. And so it's like, okay, worthy enough to go on the list. Because if it does turn up and there's an opportunity to play it, I would certainly like to.
I like your plan, except it sucks, so let me do the plan, and that way it might be really good.
This next one I might regret because big, grandiose, epic length game, could be a lot of downtime, might be too many rules for what it is, but I'm definitely on a bit more of a Star Trek fix at the moment because not only am I watching Strange New World Season 3 while that's out, but I have been binge watching Deep Space Nine like crazy. Yeah, remember I kept saying that I was eventually going to give it a second chance? Well, I have. The advantage of working from home and like being at home a lot is that this tablet can basically have Paramount Plus on, you know, on the screen, and I can just watch it in the background. You know, it's easy to just keep on tabs with it. So I have been binging DS9. I'm already up to the finale of season 5. You know, and this is only since what? Start of August. I've been like going pretty fast through this. Well, the idea with this is that now I'm on a bit of a Star Trek fix at the moment, so part of me would like to play a Star Trek game.
Star trekking across the universe.
And one that has eluded me, despite the fact that I know somebody who has it, is Star Trek Ascendancy. Star Trek Ascendancy is kind of, I don't know, it looks to me like a sort of Twilight Imperium-esque game, but themed around Star Trek. But I want to play this with some of the extra bells and whistles thrown in, not just the starter box with the 3 original races, because I think you can get, like, you know, Borg assimilation and stuff like that for it. So, you know, exploration, expansion, conflict between Federation, Romulan, and Klingons. Okay, cool. I get that the idea is probably going to be more focused towards combat than it is towards exploration and stuff, but, you know, just to play a Star Trek theme game that's going to get me into the theme, get me into that mood, and have us making references and stuff, especially if I can play this with a bunch of people who like Star Trek, you know, this would be pretty good fun. But I do want some of the other stuff in it. So, I mean, if I look up expansions here, so you've got the Brain Confederacy, which I've already just heard of the Brain via DS9. The Dominion War, which I'm still waiting for that to hurry up and kick off. I thought it was meant to have kicked off sooner, but maybe I'm literally at the end of Season 5 about to get to that point. By the time this video goes out, I will have already gone into Season 6 by now. Vulcan High Command, Andorian Empire, the Borg Assimilation, Ferengi Alliance, Cardassian Union. There's a ton of races that you can get for this game, and I want to play this game with a bunch of those in there. You know, I don't want to just play the 3 generic ones at the start. I want to play some of these other cool ones. You know, I want to play the Vulcans or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if these are playable factions or if they're just other bits in the game, but, you know, I would like to try it. So, you know, just for a bit of a Star Trek kick, Star Trek Ascendancy, would love to try it. I know I've already reviewed Star Trek Captain's Chair, and, you know, there's good stuff about it. I just kind of prefer the original Imperium game, but the only thing is, a lot of that game is still a bit outside my realms of Star Trek lore, because A, it requires you to remember really niche, nitpicky stuff at times, but also, yes, I'm binging through DS9 at the moment, but there's still stuff in Captain's Chair to do with things like Lower Decks and Enterprise and all that lot, and it's just, oh, whatever. You know, so, yeah, that one is not really the game I need to play for a Star Trek fix right now. I'd like to play something a bit more epic and thematic, and this one has caught my eye.
Sometimes I think the only reason I come here is to listen to these wonderful speeches of yours.
Okay, you want light and fluffy? Well, this one's about as light and fluffy as you can get. I don't know a lot about this game at all. I'm literally having to just rely on what BGG tells me on this. But this is a solo trick-taking game. Now, I love solo games. I also like trick-taking. So the two married together should be something pretty cool for me. But I don't recall if I've seen this much on retail stores, or if I have, I've just kind of glossed over it. But yeah, this one's just kind of passed me by, but I'm intrigued. I hear some people talking a lot about it, and it's ranked 488 on Board Game Geek, which, yes, I don't pay a huge amount of cop to the rankings on Board Game Geek, but for it to be in the top 500, it's got to be half decent, I hope. And this is for Northwood. This is, I think, a self-published game. It's a solo trick taker, 2021. Was apparently the winner of some contest where I think you had to design a game with only about 50 something cards. I was like, yeah, 54 card game design contest. So it's got, you know, it was on GameFound apparently. It's solitaire only, solo trick taking, animals, and I'm just curious about this. A hand management and precision trick taking game. Start with 4 allies, each with an ability you can use. These let you draw, discard, or manipulate your hand to hit your target's score. You know, multiple difficulty levels, you know, multiple rulers, a scenario challenge booklet, and over 8 rounds, each ruler's suit represents the trump for that fief, F-I-E-F, and, you know, I don't know much about this game. Like I say, I'm looking at some fun, nice little pictures. As you can see, the artwork is very nice, it's very pleasant. It's only a short game. I mean, what's the time is it? Yeah, one player, 15 to 30 minutes. This is not going to be a massive long game for me to do. It would be an easy one for me to just buy it, play it, and see if I like it or not, especially as it's a solo game. But yeah, as much as I've been loving trick-taking games, not that many people have told me about this one. Whenever I've said, oh, you know, let me know about some more trick-taking games, for Northwood's not been mentioned by people, and I'm curious, is that because they haven't tried it? Is it just not easy to get hold of? Or is it just not as good as it sounds? But, you know, I want to at least give this one a try as a solo player who likes trick takers. You know, can't really say much more. I just fancy giving this one a go. Anybody got any thoughts? Put them in the comments.
I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
This one I might regret when I play it, because it could be horrible. I don't know, but it's going to have a lot of rules in it. It's going to be pretty complex, and I just see it a lot on sale. Like, not a lot of people are keeping this game. Now, I don't know if that's because the game's not very good, or because people just don't find they're getting it to the table that often. I don't know. But the amount of bits that you just see everywhere, this looks like one major Euro heavy puzzle game, and it's definitely, I think, the oldest game on this list. I think the rest are in the last 5 odd years. This one's from 2017, and I keep seeing it, but part of me doesn't want to try it. It's called Agra. Agra, this, Agra, India, 1572. You know, whatever, I mean, the theme is kind of lost on me, but, you know, it's a different country to 19th century England. You know what, I'll take it. But, you know, this one, you're cultivating and harvesting cotton and turmeric. You produce wood, you're trying to, you have a profitable sandstone quarry, and then you're trading and processing your wares, obtain more luxurious goods. But it's not so much the theming that's getting me interested in this. It's not even so much the fact that it's a heavy Euro, there's plenty of them around, but it's the fact that it just looks gorgeous when it's sort of laid out. I mean, I think Michael Menzel does the artwork, and anytime Michael Menzel touches the board, it looks beautiful as all get out. So it's like, you know, it's already going to look great. But then you see like that weird display with all the cylinder, like the wooden cylinder bits on it, you know, all colored and everything. It's just like, it's a bit of a spectacle when it's on the table, but it also looks complex as hell. You know, so like, oh my God, it's going to be a lot of choices. But then does that mean it's very sandboxy? You know, I like sandboxy style Euros, or is it just the fact that it's not that sandboxy, there's just a lot of stuff you got to contend with? Part of me does just want to give this one a try, because I've seen it, it looks good, but I've never decided that I wanted to buy it on a second-hand sale to try and learn it, because I thought, oh, this is going to be a bit of a mission when the time comes. And even then, the timing's not been right. You know, I can only buy these sort of games at times like this, actually, when there's not much to worry about. Although I'm going to get the Garfield game stuff soon, and we're hunting up to Essen, so, you know, that's going to be a problem eventually. Certainly I will not do this in the last 3 months of the year. But yeah, I'd just like to try this one at a convention sometime. If anybody's a fan of this game and just wants to whip it out for one evening, then, you know, I would give this one a try, just to see if it plays as good as it looks.
Ooh, short answer yes with an if, long answer no with a but.
And this last one on this list, yes, I almost backed this on Kickstarter when it was on, but it was just, much like everything that Arcane Wonders now puts out, it's just a little bit too on the expensive side. And it was, I mean, it was expensive just for the basic version of the game, but as much as I don't say, oh, you don't need all the fancy miniatures and stuff for a Kickstarter, this is one where if I bought it, I want those friggin' miniatures.
It is just that the luxury edition has so much more eagle.
Because they look good, and the theme is exactly what I would have wanted, and that is Freedom 5. This is basically Defenders of the Realm if you put the theming of Sentinels in the Multiverse on it. And Sentinels in the Multiverse is one of my favourite games of all time, as you know. You know, I've touted the praises of it plenty of times. Well, this is basically Defenders of the Realm, which was a half-decent sort of gateway-level co-op game in the past, but it's set in, like, the streets of was it Rook City or wherever it is, or Megatropolis or whatever their main city is called, but you're controlling the various different heroes. And the Kickstarter allowed you to get a bunch of the heroes and a lot of the different villains. They would behave differently, they'd have different powers, and it's like, you're giving me a co-op game, sort of board miniatures and stuff, with all the Sentinels and the Multiverse stuff. The only reason I didn't get it at the time is because the price of this, when you included the miniatures, particularly if you wanted them painted, I don't know if they had to be painted, but certainly if you wanted those painted miniatures, the cost was off the friggin' chain. And so given that we've got Ark Nova Free Edition and stuff like that at the moment, that is saying something. And the problem is with Kickstarter, I don't know if they do it now, they certainly didn't do it back then, but GameFound, I can buy an expensive project on GameFound because they do very good installment plans. I backed the Agricola one recently with Awakened Realms. You know, might be a bad idea, but I wanted to give it a try, give it another try with the fancy new edition and stuff. Well, that one I can pay over like 7 installments, you know, to pay for the cost of the deluxe version. I'm not getting all the other bells and whistles on top. I just want the deluxe version, normal, whatever. But that's 7 installments, so I can spread the cost out. I don't know if you can do that with Kickstarter at the moment. You certainly couldn't do it when this came out. So you had to find yourself like 300 quid or whatever in order to buy this whopping great big game on a gamble, because I wasn't exactly knowing if I was going to love the game that much. And very, you know, I will stand by this. It doesn't matter how much I love the game, there is a limit to how much the cost justifies it. You know, my Hegemony and Spirit Island and Sentinels of the Multiverse and Deep Rock Galactic and all that, yeah, I love them to bits, and Ark Nova even, but I wouldn't necessarily want to spend £300 on the game even if I knew I loved it that much. You might argue, well, yeah, you got your value out of it eventually. Did I? I mean, I may have played Ark Nova about 180 times or something, but a lot of that's on BGA, you know, which is easy enough to get the game played. If I paid £300 to spice it up with all those 3D buildings and acrylic stuff later, am I going to get enough plays out of the physical game to justify that cost upgrade? Probably not, but even then, there's a limit to how much you need to spend on a board game. It's just a little bit ridiculous. And this one, again, was ridiculous. The cost just went off the chain, and I decided I didn't want to spend that kind of money. I haven't even seen it played. I don't know anybody who owns it. As far as I'm aware, did it even fulfill? Has it fulfilled yet? I don't know. I literally don't know. It sort of made a splash with how expensive it was, and then just disappeared off the face of the planet. I don't know what the deal is with it anymore. But you know, I would certainly like to try it. You know, I like Defenders of the Realm just fine. I would like to try it with these new heroes and, you know, this new theming, sorry, and give it a shot. But, man, you know, I hope never to have to spend that kind of money on it. And I would imagine that given that it doesn't have much of a following at the moment, if anybody is selling the Freedom 5 stuff with the miniature secondhand, they better be selling it at a much discounted price, because I don't think anybody is going to buy it at what the Kickstarter was worth at this point, just because no one's really playing it. But I would certainly like to try it, just because it's got Sentinels of the Multiverse plastered all over it.
You're not sleeping with it, are you, Ray?
So there you go, 10 games, not ranked in any particular order, that I would like to play, just haven't been able to. You know, too big, too expensive, too long, not going to get my own copy, hard to get hold of, whatever. You know, there'll be reasons that I haven't played these games. Hopefully I'll be able to cross some of these off the list in the future. Some are going to be harder than others, but, you know, you never know what might happen. But I have to admit, this was harder to make than I thought. I barely came up with 10. This could have literally just been 5 at one point. I was really struggling to find 10. And so it does make me feel that, wow, there's a lot of games that have been released. There's a lot of games I have not played. But there's not a lot of games out there that I'm excited to play. You know, and we're not counting games that haven't been released yet and Kickstarter's incoming. I mean, obviously, Essen will have a bunch of games released. I'm only interested in so many of the stuff coming out of Essen, and obviously I'm not putting those on this list because nobody's played them yet, or at least not major releases. This is all stuff that's been released and I just haven't got around to playing. But when I looked through Board Game Geek, trying to look at all the games that I've not rated on Board Game Geek, and I'm like, wow, I just don't care about that one. Don't care, don't like, don't care, don't care, don't care. I suppose, maybe. Not that fussed. Yeah, don't care, don't care, don't care. And it's just, yeah, really, there's just not a lot that when I look at them going, yeah, there's a reason I don't want to play these games. Or there's a reason that I'm thinking, if I play it, fine, but I'm not that fussed. It's getting past that feeling, the I'm not that fussed reasoning. You know, yes, there might be a game where if somebody plays it and I've not played, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. But that's not because I've been excited to play it, it's just because, well, it's something new and I'll try any game once. But yeah, these ones were the ones that I thought of where I'm like, no, I have more of a desire to play these ones. Or these ones are the ones that would tempt me more if I saw them on the table and be like, oh, that one has been on the list before, but yeah, struggled to find 10. Be curious to know what your thoughts are though. You know, if you have played these 10 games, are you going to tell me that they're fantastic or that they're horrible? I'd like to know your thoughts below. And of course, think of 1 or 2 max, you know, that you would like to play and haven't got to yet, and give us a reason. It will make for some good discussions. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube. Consider joining the Patreon to help support the channel and keep it going, self-funding its own review copies, because let's face it, I don't get many sent out to me. And obviously, patrons are asked occasionally to help me out with podcast ideas and top 10 ideas like this one. So thank you again, Lena Kim, for giving me this idea. I think you're long overdue for one of your ideas to be used because you come up with a lot of them. And I'm kind of ashamed that I haven't used more of them lately. So hopefully this one was to your liking. So until next time, remember, regardless if you can play everything you've always wanted to play or not, it's still only a game. So just move forward, eh? Take care. Bye for now.